The Pap Attack.
In July 2008, an unhinged right-wing freak by the name of Jim David Adkisson walked into a Knoxville, Tennessee church, and he opened fire on the congregation during a youth choir performance. He killed 2 people and seriously injured 7 others. When police searched his home, they found a manifesto that he had written. He said that he picked that particular church because of their alleged liberal leanings and their promotion of liberal ideas. They also found a library filled with right-wing hate talk books from Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and Michael Savage. Adkinson spent most of his adult life listening to the right-wing hate talkers telling him that America was under attack from liberals, that liberals wanted to destroy and emasculate America, and that liberals wanted to take away his rights. All of those things were mentioned in his manifesto, but if you've paid attention to the right-wing hate talkers over the years, they also echo the words of right-wing king of hate, the absolute king of hate, Michael Savage. In fact, Adkinson's manifesto looked like Savage himself could have written it. Savage is unique within the right-wing hate machine. Few people pay much attention to his insane inflammatory remarks that he makes almost on a daily basis. But they do so, and you know what? It puts them in peril. Savage has a rabid audience that's capable of committing truly horrific acts, as we saw with Jim Adkisson. Savage changed his name early in his career from Michael Weiner, if you can imagine. He claims that he didn't want to be known as a typical Bronx Jew. Those are his words. And he came up with a name that he felt sounded a little more masculine. Weiner knew that he wasn't the only one suffering from severe insecurity about his own masculinity, and so he began his talk radio career by exploiting the irrational fears of other right-wing crybabies. That's who seems to want to listen to Michael the Weiner. Weiner drew on his own experiences dealing with his insecurities to help manipulate the insecurities of his audience. So when he goes on the air and mocks an Iraq war veteran with PTSD and tells him to man up and stop acting like a crybaby, Weiner isn't talking to the caller as much as he's talking to himself.
I am so sick and tired of everyone with their complaints about PTSD, depression. See, I was raised a little differently. I was raised to fight weakness. I was raised to fight pain. I was raised to fight depression, not to give into it. Not to cave into it and cry like a little baby in bed. Boo-hoo-hoo! Boo-hoo-hoo! And you need men like me to save the country. You need men to stand up and say, stop crying like a baby over everything. Stand up already.
You see, Weiner just can't find enough courage to not be scared of the changing world around him. He's terrified, just like his listeners. They're afraid of every damn thing that's new and different. So he does what every bully does in that situation. He demonizes that terrifies him. His attacks on liberals and gays and minorities and women and immigrants and Muslims and everyone else who isn't an old white guy represent the things that he fears. And by convincing his audience to fear these things, he doesn't feel quite insecure. He doesn't feel quite as alone in his Michael Weenie world. There's a book on the market called The Eliminationist, How Hate Talk Radicalized the American Right. It's a book that helps us understand the connections between fringe Tea Party type messaging and hate crime. Xenophobe, homophobe, demophobe, Obamaphobe, taxphobe, choicephobe, governmentphobe. Name the fear and you can match it to a Tea Party message that panders to the most terrified, simpleton, impressionable minds in the room with the other Tea Partiers. The author of the book, David Adkisson, says that there's a formula that promotes the terminally unsophisticated and disturbed parts of the politically right audience to do more than just to listen about hate messaging. They want to participate as much as they can. The basic principle behind the formula is to appeal to the most fearful, the most intellectually challenged portion of a listening audience. Once you get that crowd's attention, the next step is to demonize, dehumanize, and in a sense objectify the hate talker target. And then that allows the hate talker to more easily characterize the government or the Latino or the liberal or the Muslim, the abortion doctor, or even the President of the United States as a traitor or a criminal or an opponent to everything that's righteous and decent. The process is called eliminationism. It's a process that encourages the contempt talker's audience to ridicule, to suppress, and to ignore opinions that are different from those of the audience. I've interviewed Nywert dozens of times over the years, and he has an interesting way of describing eliminationism. He told me that it's the equivalent of allowing a village idiot to wander around through town square poking everyone he dislikes in the eye with a sharp stick. His book points out that some villagers have enough courage, enough intellect to stop the idiot, the lunatic, but others don't have a sense enough to realize that the lunatic has recruited them and has actually handed them their own sharp stick. That is the Michael Savage audience, an audience of lunatics. In the end, a pathetic, an impressionable, right-wing, fringe lunatic murderer, he murders innocent churchgoers, or they fly their plane into an IRS building, or they murder an abortion doctor. And we see that the process of eliminationism was successful once again. And we see that the ignorant hate divide diatribe by oddballs like Michael Savage Weiner are not exactly funny ha-ha moments. And the worst part is that there's no consequences for people like Michael Weiner, and he just goes on with his life, onto his multi-million-dollar syndication deal, and he continues to write hate-filled books that terrify his audience and make that book into bestsellers. Fear sells, hate sells. Michael Weiner has become one hell of a salesman because nobody is more afraid of the world than Michael Savage the Weiner.